Besamaab, well, Wemefeskadus, Ahadu Amlak. Besamaab, well, Wemefeskadus, Ahadu Amlak. Besamaab, well, Wemefeskadus, Ahadu Amlak. Amen. Yes, good morning, Melkamadil. Good morning. So, on with the journey is eventful so far. Just up to Genesis 20. And yeah, a lot's happening. So we will continue with the reading. So, blessed love. And Abraham journeys from there towards the land of the south, and dwells between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourns in Gerar. And Abraham says concerning his wife Sarah, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sends and takes Sarah. And God comes to Abimelech in a dream of the night, and says to him, behold, you are a dead man, because the woman who you have taken, and she is married to a husband. And Abimelech has not drawn near to her. And he says, Lord, do you also slay a righteous nation? Has he not himself said to me, she is my sister? And she, even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and in the innocence of my hands, I have done this. And God says to him in the dream, indeed, I have known that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I will withhold you, even I, from sinning against me. Therefore I have not permitted you to come against her. And now send her back to the man's wife, for he is inspired, and he prays for you, and you live. And if you do not send her back, know that dying you die, and you and all that you have. And Abimelech rises early in the morning, and calls for all his servants, and speaks all these words in their ears. And the men fear exceedingly. And Abimelech calls for Abraham, and says to him, what have you done to us? And what have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Works which are not done you have done with me. Abimelech also says to Abraham, what have you seen, that you have not done this thing? And Abraham says, behold, I said, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they have slain me for my sake of my wife. And also truly she is my sister, daughter of my father, only not daughter of my brother, and she becomes my wife. And it becomes to pass, when God has caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is your kindness which you do with me, and at every place to where we come, say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech takes sheep and oxen and servants and handmaids, and gives to Abraham, and says back to his wife Sarah to him. Sorry, let me read that bit again. And Abimelech takes sheep and oxen and servants and handmaids, and gives to Abraham, and sends back Sarah his wife to him. And Amalek says, behold my land before you, where it is good in your eyes dwell. And to Sarah he has said, behold, I have given 1,000 pieces of silver to your brother. Behold, it is to you a covering of eyes, to all who are with you. And by all this she is reasoned with. And Abraham prays to God, and God heals Amalek and his wife and his handmaids, and they bear for Yahweh, restrained every womb of the house of Amalek, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. For these few words I give thanks, blessed love. So here we see a repeat of an earlier chapter where Abraham is scared that the king of the land that he's living in will kill him and Sarah, his wife. So he gives the wife to the king, saying that Sarah's his sister. And actually, it turns out Sarah's actually his half sister. So they end up becoming husband and wife. So I'm not going to say any more on that in terms of, yeah, that is what that says. But here, I guess we see another weakness in Abraham, that he doesn't stand up to the king, and he's actually fearful, even though God has said in the previous lands, you will be the father of many nations, etc. Abraham still has doubt, and I think this is one of the key things, that God chose Abraham to be the patriarch and to be the prophet, not because of what Abraham does, is not by Abraham's merit. Abraham is a deeply flawed character in the Bible, but that's precisely why God chose him to be the patriarch, because God does not come just for the righteous. He comes for, all of us. God knows that humans aren't perfect. So it's actually what God sees in Abraham. And God, it's a bit like the reverse of the book of Job, where Job is seen to be this perfect individual, then God tests Job to test his faithfulness. With Abraham, it's slightly the other way around. I mean, Abraham does have strong faith, but he's forever doubtful. But God continues to believe in Abraham to fulfill that promise. And I think I think it's really interesting how they portray Abraham, because the Bible doesn't gloss over his sins, doesn't gloss over his weaknesses, but I think it's also a testament to why God saw that in Abraham to be the patriarch of his kingdom on earth. I know there's plenty of people that, they profess to have a faith, but they won't read the Bible, or they won't go to church, or they won't pray because they don't feel that they're ready to, that they might be what's considered sinning or doing certain things. So my hands aren't clean enough to read the Bible, my hands aren't clean enough to go to church. When actually that's the other way round. That's precisely when you should be reading the Bible and should be going to church. If you think about hospital, you don't go to hospital when you're well, or you don't go to the doctors when you're well. You go there when you need that support, when you need that advice, and you need that guidance. And I think it's the same with the Bible or church or whatever tradition you follow. Go there when you're most in need of it. You don't go there when you think you're perfect. Otherwise, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? So in this sense as well, God has deliberately chosen someone who is weak, who's flawed, because that actually is the state of humankind after the fall of Adam and Eve. But God continues to see in Abraham, and he says in an earlier reading, that through faith in God, that God then bestowed righteousness on Adam. That was seen as righteousness. So God continues to believe in Abraham that he can do the right thing, that through faith, the promise will be manifested. But that is despite Abraham, that he does have doubts, and Abraham does have doubts. She had doubts, and they became impatient, etc., etc. So I think it's really interesting that Abraham was the chosen one to become the patriarch and to become the father of the nations, as it were. But it's very symbolic. God does not expect us to be perfect. He just expects us to keep faith in him, to trust in him, and that's it. But we fall short because we are human, but continue to dust ourselves off and have faith for the next day. So yeah, really interesting chapter. I think it says a lot. But God's continual relationship and an evolving relationship with humans, I think, is very much apparent in here. So I'll leave it as that. Obviously, there's a big white elephant in the room, I guess, in terms of Sarah also being Abraham's half sister, not only his wife. I'm not a historian in the sense of judging how common that would have been back in those times, so I'm not going to really speak on that. But as we know, that's not really what we would do today. But that's how it's written there. But I think that's very different to Lot's daughters sleeping with Lot, their father. Even that's frowned upon in the Bible. That's not accepted. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'll leave it as that really. So blessed love, give thanks, have a blessed day, and God willing, see you tomorrow. Yet a for Kia.